April 9th Board of Adjustment meeting to order and start with approval of the agenda and approval of last month's minutes.
Moves to approve the agenda minutes.
I'd second, then I've got a couple changes,
Go ahead.
corrections. With the, I gotta make sure I get the right one, the March 12th Board of Adjustment, just, it's a small thing, but if it ever came back to haunt us, it might be worth noting. In the, I gotta find the right one. Sackstrup discussion, in Neva's, findings, it just says the contractor advised the homeowner that, and maybe this is what they said, but as long as it was under 40 square feet and within 40 foot of the vegetation, I think the number is 160 square feet. They understood that that was the size, and just does that make sense, Diane? Okay, that's otherwise I would second the approval.
Right. We've got a motion and a second with a couple adjustments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll approve that. We'll start with our update on ongoing business. Neva, do you?
Yep, just an update. If you'll recall, at our last March 12th Board of Adjustment meeting, Mr. Novaczyk requested that his variance be tabled so that he could spend some time to better familiarize himself with the discussion. And after that, he decided to withdraw his variance application. So that's his letter of withdrawal in your package. Just kind of wanted to close the book on that. And then also the next chapter now is that he's going to reapply for a new variance to amend the variance that granted the garage in 1989 to allow that structure to be used as a cabin, because that 1989 variance was very specific about it being a garage. Didn't give me a lot of wiggle room. So it's an intensification of use of that structure. So it's kind of reopening that 1989 variance for an amendment. So it won't be any significant change in size or any change in size within the shoreline setback area. So that will be before you at the May meeting. That's your update.
Thank you. All right, new business, Tom Probst, variance request, 2025 7V.
Thank
Eva.
you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to amend a variance that was granted in 2023. This property is a half acre and approximately 150 feet of Clearwater Lake shoreline within the Lakeshore Residential Zone District. And the request in 2023 was granted as he's it's an old cabin and needs to essentially be replaced. And so it was a pretty minor variance in 2023. The Board of Adjustment granted the replacement cabin to have minor modifications, including a 3-foot increase in roof height and eliminating a 29 square foot indent to square up a corner of the building. And everything else about the cabin was essentially remaining the same. And so after that 2023 variance, he found that he needs to increase 2 feet on the cabin. It's towards the lake, but it's the part of the cabin that's set back from the lake. So the drawing on the screen up there, it's that shaded gray area, that little 2-foot section there to be extended. And so on page 16 of 57 of your packet, it's that grade bar that's 37 feet from the shoreline that's having the 2-foot extension. This property, if you've been on site, it's pretty close to the lake itself. There are some trees about 30 feet from the shoreline, so it's within the shore impact area. On the back side of the cabin is a retaining wall. You can see that retaining wall on the left side of the picture up top. For backgrounds, the cabin was built in the 1940s and has been maintained over the years to reflect an effective year build date of 1975 per the Cook County Assessor's records. The applicant indicates that this cabin was originally built as a part of a resort. Both properties on either side of the subject property have received variances to be replaced and expanded from the original cabins. The Board of Adjustment approved the 2023 variance, as I earlier described. In reviewing the 2023 variance, the board determined that the property was restricted by unique topographic features and a small lot size, and that the variance request was reasonable and should have no negative impact to neighboring properties. The Board of Adjustment approved that 2023 variance with 4 conditions that I've included in your packet. For site conditions and consideration, the property has a septic tank and treatment area which served the existing cabin, proposed to be replaced. The septic was redone in 2009, and there's no issues with impervious surface coverage or wetlands. The slope, the property does have a unique slope. The existing cabin is located between the toe of the bluff and the lake. Behind the cabin is a bluff feature which includes the retaining wall, and at the top of the bluff is the septic treatment area by the road. There isn't really anywhere on this property to build any other structure in a conforming capacity. For public notice, the application was noticed in the Cook County News Herald on March 21st. 10 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments, the Cook County Coalition of Lake Association, and the DNR hydrologist. 1 written comment was submitted by Julie Carlson in support of the variance request. For staff recommendations for consideration, staff consider the modest amendment of the 2023 variance approval to be a reasonable request and is aligned with the findings and conditions of the 2023 variance listed in the background section of this narrative.
Thank you, Neva. Would the applicant like to add to Neva's? If so, step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Tom Probst. I live at 9340 84th Street North in Grant Township. Neva said pretty much everything. It is a small cabin. It's 18 feet wide and where the bedrooms are, and there's 2 bedrooms back there. So, and once you factor in the walls, the bedrooms are about 8.5 feet wide. And this didn't occur to me until we started working with an architect, and he said, boy, if you could get 2 more feet, that would make all the difference. So I'd like to do it the right way, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. We'll open to the public. Is anyone in the public wish to speak on this application? Hearing none, we'll close to the public and discuss as board. Paul, you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's non-problematic and very reasonable request.
Courtney?
I agree. I do have one question. Is there trees or anything that would be removed to accommodate that?
My dad, who died in October, he was 98, but he hated to pull any plants in and grow them. There's a tree growing right
Upside it?
every year. It's going to go right through the wall.
Yeah, it looks a little close.
It's been 70 years of conflict between my dad and my mom because he would not pull anything. My mom would have to sneak around and pull it, and this one just got out of control.
This one got out.
Jeff?
No, I agree with Paul. It's a very minor change. Seems reasonable. Then you can walk around her bed in the bedroom.
Well, we had a full bed back there, and that was we finally upgraded to a queen. I can't tell you how many times I stubbed my toe trying to make that bed.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Neva.
I was just going to point out the conditions, I kind of glazed over them, but one of the conditions of that 2023 variance approval was for a improved shoreline buffer, a 10-foot shoreline buffer to be planted with native plants and shrubs along the shoreline to improve vegetative buffer. So to your point, there's supposed to be a planting improvement on the shoreline for this.
And we do, I don't know if you remember this from last time, but we do, the cabins on either side are kind of mowed clear to the lake, and ours is all, you can't see the cabin from the lake, even though it's 30 feet away. So we are not, we don't want to put ourselves on display.
This is the property right adjacent to the landing.
No, it's
Two over.
Paul Scott is next to the landing, and then we're between
Okay.
Paul Scott
Yep.
and Paul Scott.
I was trying to remember, I use that landing quite a bit, and I was trying to think in my mind exactly
Yeah,
where that
if you-
was.
If you
Okay.
go around towards the bay, ours is the cabin you can't see.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see anything else and would make a motion to approve. Sorry.
One quick, do we concur with staff's findings, or do we want to go through the findings of fact?
No, I
Thinking we,
I listed
concur.
the same findings that were granted in the 2023 variance, because I felt that nothing had substantially changed from what the board had found with that.
So really, we're kind of modifying an approved variance.
I
is
just
what we're
wanted to
doing, right?
address it and have
Yeah.
us state it for the record. I think we're
Yeah.
probably pretty clear, so, go ahead, Courtney.
I would make a motion to approve it with the same 2023 variance request conditions being met.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next item, George Stagg, variance request 2025 8V. Eva.
This is a variance request to allow the after-the-fact creation of 2 substandard lots in the FAR1 zone district where a minimum lot area of 20 acres is required, and the Lakeshore Residential Zone District where a minimum lot width and water frontage of 150 feet is required. The applicant has 2 parcels as a part of this variance request. So on the screen, you'll see the one that's highlighted blue with the little strip going down to the lake, and then the one to the left of that, the 3400 one in the FAR 1 zone district, also is a part of this. These lots were created between 1996 and 2002 when the zoning ordinance standards were in place. So everywhere that's white should be a 20-acre minimum, and everywhere that's blue should be at least a 1-acre minimum or at least 150 feet wide at the lake. And that's a 20-foot strip going down to the lake. This applicants are requesting that these lots be recognized as legal lots of record, so essentially granting relief by the date that the lots were created. Had these lots been created prior to zoning ordinance requirements in 1984, they would have been grandfathered in. Let's see. The easterly parcel has the 20-foot wide strip of land accessing Pike Lake, which is not an allowable lot configuration per the shoreline standards, and both parcels have much less than the 20-acre minimum of FAR1 zone district requirements. Included a little table in the packet that tried to kind of summarize this. So this is over on the like northwest side of Pike Lake off of Willard Lane. And this is kind of that summary of the 2 lots relative to the area there. I included the ordinance citation and some definitions. So legal nonconformities, lots, or structures that were placed prior to the enactment of the zoning ordinance in 1984 are granted certain rights and allowances outlined in Article 9 of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance. Since these lots were created after that date, they are not eligible to be processed according to those nonconforming standards. I included the definition of lot of record and lot width, which does stipulate that it has to be the water frontage amount, as well as the FAR1 and the Lakeshore Residential Zone District standards. So feel free to ask me any questions that you might have about those differences of things. I'm going to try to keep this kind of light, and then we can get into the weeds in your discussion if you want. So again, Section 9, what this variance request is essentially asking for is saying, okay, these lots were created substandard when they should have been created to be standard. The difficulty, I would say, is that these properties have undergone a couple of different property transactions, and Mr. Stagg, the current property owner here tonight, you know, he kind of got left holding the bag when this came to our attention, so to say. He didn't purchase this property knowing that these issues were present, and now the property's up for transfer again, and this came to our attention during the potential buyer's kind of inquiries. So my perspective has been that the Board of Adjustment has granted variances for substandard lots that are not legal lots of record when you have found that they've been there for a long time. So, you know, there's no line in the sand, but usually the ones in the 90s have been granted relief. The way I describe it to people, it's a lot different than if a substandard lot was created 5 years ago. We did not have an administrative process for creating parcels when this was done, although they should have been created according to standards. And as long as there's still like valuable recreational actual use of the property. So there have been smaller FAR 1 substandard lots that this board has recognized for variance approvals previously, because the owners have recognized that there were recreational uses and there were not any combination options for those examples. So if this does get approved tonight, one thing is that these lots will be then subject to Article 9 of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance. And because both parcels do not meet the 66% dimensional standards, they will need to be combined. So if the variance gets approved, the landowner will need to combine those two parcels to become one parcel, and then they're a little less non-conforming, or a little closer to conforming. So I think also in weighing your discussions, how difficult would it be to force compliance and force these lots to try to meet the zoning ordinance standards? You know, we always weigh like how much burden to the owner to comply versus benefit to the county. These have been there for a long time, and to force these to comply with the ordinance standards would certainly cause some turmoil, I would say. So just some things for you to consider. I included a lot more detail in your staff narratives, but honestly, this is like the driest stuff of ordinance stuff to explain to people, so I don't quite want to read all that to you. I'm hoping the anecdotal versions is enough. I did provide you some draft findings for your consideration, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Neva. Would the applicant like to add anything to the narrative?
I don't have anything to add, thank you. I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. We'll open it to the public. Not seeing any public, we'll close it to the public and discuss as a board.
I would like to know how a chunk between two properties down to the lake got taken out and stuck in another property. Must have been some pretty nice neighbors back in the day.
Paul or Jim?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward from my perspective. I think, yeah, it's an unnecessary burden to try to enforce that on the current property owner. And this seems like the fact that it's stipulated that they'd be combined afterwards, I think, gets us closer to a better, solution, so.
I'd agree with Paul, given that they are gonna be combined, it removes any heartburn I might have.
I agree. I don't see that. I don't see any good in not doing it, so. Do we concur with the staff's findings, or do we want to go through them?
I concur.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with these findings.
Comfortable with them? With that, I'd look for a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance with the staff conditions as part of that.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
You go ahead.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve with the staff conditions, and with that, I'd look for I would call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion
Thank you.
carries. And a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
I was talking to some friends on the lead sent me a mess about this. You've been on Willard Lane.
No.